Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Dental Assisting Council. My name is Kara Miyazaki, and I'm chair of the Dental. Today is Thursday, November 7th, 2024. Council meeting is public participation through X. We'd like to welcome our first meeting, Carrie Smith. Our today. For all those who wish to participate online, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided on the agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone and microphone and speakers on computer. The phone number and access code will be provided as part of the meeting. During each call for comments from the Dental Assisting Council members and speakers, all comments can be accommodated are heard before proceeding with the agenda. This is an official meeting of the City Council. We are going to stop for a moment to do a quick text.
Moderator, can you confirm that our WebEx participants can hear us?
So Executive Officer Montez, I can hear you just fine, but the chair is very soft and her voice was cutting in and out. I could just barely hear her, and other people logged into WebEx could not hear her at all.
Okay, I'm going to have her use my microphone and see if that's better.
Check. Is that better?
Yes.
The council welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and it is the council's intent to ask for public comments prior to the council taking action on any agenda item. DCA moderator will explain the process for providing public comment shortly. For individuals participating via WebEx, when called upon, the moderator will give the individual permission to unmute themselves, and they will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The moderator will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the comment. After the 2 minutes have lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a total time limit may be imposed. Ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with testimony already provided, please state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during the meeting.
This is the moderator of the meeting. For purposes of today's meeting, when the council chair opens public comment, members of the public who would like to provide public comment at our DCA location in Sacramento can approach the table and microphone at the front of the room. For those joining via WebEx, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature to facilitate public comment. When the council reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. The moderator will call on the individual and give the individual permission to unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. At the conclusion of the 2 minutes, the individual's microphone will be muted and we will move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the council. Questions submitted using this feature will not be answered. When making your comment, please make sure the comment is directed at the host in the dropdown. While you are free to express criticism or negative views for the sake of members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the council. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item.
I would like to call the meeting to order and ask for board staff to call the roll.
Good morning. My name is Morella Turan. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins,
Ms. Robbins present.
Fowler,
Fowler present.
Gerlach,
Gerlach present.
Miyazaki,
Saki present.
Halagi, Pacheco,
Pacheco present.
Smith.
Smith present.
A quorum has been established.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Before we open public comment on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind everyone that public comments should address the council as a whole and not individuals. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the council members, but it is not a discussion between the members and the public. The only action council members can take right now is to listen to comments and decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. Though this may seem at times like the council members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure the rules of the Open Meeting Act are followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the council's mission. In the interest of time, as we have done in the past, we'd like to request that public comments not repeat statements made by a prior commenter. If you are in support of a statement made by a prior individual and your comments have already been made, please just state your name or association and your support for the previous commenter. Legislative hearings regularly use this practice as it is a good way to ensure that we can hear from everyone today. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing that there are none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer feature. If any member of the public would like to comment on the items not on the agenda, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, I'm seeing no requests for comment. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action on August 15th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there any council member discussion? Is there a motion and a second? Please state your name and motion or second.
Fowler, I motion to accept the meetings as is.
Pacheco second.
The motion is to approve the meeting minutes for August 15th, 2024. Are there any in-person public comments? Seeing that there are none, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer feature. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 3, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, or else simply raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you, board staff. Please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Morella Turan. The motion is to approve the August 15, 2024 meeting minutes. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins,
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler,
Fowler, aye.
Gerlach,
Gerlach aye.
Miyazaki,
Miyazaki, aye.
Halagi, Pacheco,
Pacheco aye.
Smith.
Smith, aye.
The motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 4, executive officer report. I'm going to ask Tracy Montez. Tracy Montez, exec. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer, to present this agenda item.
Good morning, Tracy Montez, Executive Officer. Feel like I'm sitting in a hole. Good morning and welcome to our council meeting. I'm going to just start by sharing with you that at this time we have about a 5% vacancy rate with the board. So we're very excited, as I've shared at prior board meetings, our vacancy rate fluctuates, but I think this is probably the lowest that we've been since the last couple of years. So we're very excited about that. And for the board meeting today, we will be introducing a whole bunch of staff. Some of them are new and some are just staff members that have not yet been introduced to the board. So looking very much forward to that. Also, I wanted to share with you all that our staff met with the DCA Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education, and it was just to get some clarification on a board item, which turned into a very interesting conversation, and I'll talk again a little bit more about that later. But it was, again, another example of how collaboration with DCA, it can be very helpful to us. So we're very excited about that. Also, our November 2024 board newsletter has been distributed and posted. So I would encourage you all, if you haven't had a chance to review it, it has some great articles in it. And again, it gets bigger and bigger, I think, every issue. I will, with Dr. Felsenfeld, be attending the Dental Hygiene Board of California meeting, which is next week. And we're very happy to have Mr. Anthony Lum here, the Executive Officer of the Hygiene Board, with us today. And then finally, I wanted to share with you that this is Ms. Pacheco's last dental assisting council meeting. She is terming out, and so we have a little something for her at the board meeting. We're going to save that, but we did want to share with all of you that this is her last council meeting. She has been with the board for quite some time, the council, and obviously been extremely valuable. She just spent several months, I should say, working as a member of our infection control work group, many hours. And so I just want to say thank you, Joanne. And I don't know if you want to say anything or save it later, but I think it'd be nice to give you a couple minutes. You've definitely earned it.
Let's see. So I would like to thank the Dental Assisting Council and the Dental Board for partnering with dental auxiliaries and respecting our abilities to partner in public protection as we together render patient care. It's been an honor to serve the council as well as the Dental Board in several positions. So thank you, Tracy.
Thank you very much. And that concludes my executive officer report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the council members may have.
Is there any council member discussion? The council members and myself would like to thank you, Joanne, for your participation in our council, and we just really appreciate all of your input and participation.
It's never goodbye. It's see you later, right?
Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please. Oh, I'm sorry. There's an in-person public comment. Ms. Becker?
Sherry Becker, representing the Alliance. We also would like to extend our thanks to Ms. Pacheco for her service over all the years and are very, very grateful for her participation as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. And remember, I am an RDA too.
Are there any more in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the executive officer's report, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or you may simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 5, update on dental assisting examination statistics. I'm going to ask Tina Valerie, Chief of License and Program Compliance and Dental Assisting, to present this agenda item.
Good morning. I will be presenting agenda item 5, which is the update on dental assisting examination statistics, which begins on page 14 of your meeting materials. This memo provides the examination statistics for the RDA Combined General Written and Law and Ethics Examination, the RDA EF Written Exam, the Orthodontic Assistant Written Exam, and the Dental Sedation Assistant Written Exam for fiscal year 2024-2025 through September 30th of 2024, along with the prior 3 fiscal years. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there any council member discussion? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 6, update on dental assisting licensing statistics. I'm going to ask Ms. Valerie to present this agenda item.
Thank you. This agenda item begins on page 16 of your meeting materials and goes through page 26. This memo provides an overview of the licensing statistics for the dental assisting unit. The tables and charts within this memo indicate the number of applications received, approved, abandoned, and denied. It provides the number of licenses issued by month, along with the number of active, inactive, delinquent, and canceled licenses. You also see information about the number of current and active RDAs by county and population. And the statistics provided are for fiscal years 2024-2025 through September 30th, and the prior 3 fiscal years as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any council member discussions? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 6, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. This is Tracy Montez. I just want to offer the comment that on these update items, if there's anything that the board staff have concerns with, they will flag this. So we do get up and for both the Dental Assisting Council and board meeting, we give you these statistics. It's a little dry, but certainly if there's something in the data that we have concerns about, we will add that in the summary. So unless you hear us flagging it, we're comfortable, but certainly you may have questions as well as the public, and we're always happy to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to commend Tina and her staff for putting these tables together. We know it's not a very small job at all, and it's it could be probably very tedious. So thank you for putting them together for the council. We will now move on to agenda item 7, update on registered dental assistant and registered dental assistant in extended functions, educational programs, and course application approvals. I'm going to ask Victor Levet, License and Program Compliance Unit Manager, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair Miyazaki. I'll be presenting agenda item 7, which begins on page 27 of your meeting materials. This memo provides statistics on applications for board approval of dental assisting educational programs and courses for fiscal years 21-22 through the first quarter of fiscal year 24-25. So these include applications for board approval of RDA programs, RDAF programs, and RDF programs that include interim therapeutic restorations, of dental sedation assistant, DSA, and orthodontic assistant OA permit courses, and approvals of radiation safety, coronal polishing, Pitt and Fisher sealant, ultrasonic scaling, and infection control courses. The memo also provides data on RDA and RDF educational program site visits. I want to mention that we currently have 2 site visits scheduled, an RDF site visit later this month and an RDA site visit in December. There's no action requested, and this concludes the agenda item.
Thank you. Is there any council member discussion? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 7, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I went out of order, so are there any in-person public comments?
Sherry Becker, representing the Alliance. Just a point of clarification, if the reevaluations will be for all programs, or is this, I guess, random audits, or how is that working?
Sorry, that's going to be the next item, sub-item.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more in-person public comments? Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 7A, overview of educational program and course reevaluations. I'm going to ask Ms. Valerie to present this agenda item.
Thank you. This memo is provided for informational purposes to identify the board's authority and responsibility to reevaluate all dental assisting programs and courses to investigate compliance with the Dental Practice Act. In August 2024, board staff began the preliminary stages of the reevaluation process. We began by sending requests for information to approximately 173 approved Pitt and Fisher sealant course providers. This was done to collect information about the current status of their courses. Beginning in October, staff sent out 5 reevaluation notices to providers that identified they were still offering the course or intend to in the future. We will continue to send 5 notices per month until all have been reevaluated. During the reevaluation process, providers can continue to operate their courses and will have 4 weeks to respond to the notice. The reevaluation process is expected to take between 60 and 90 days to conclude, but it may be longer if it is determined a site visit is warranted. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there any council member discussion?
Tina, this is Joanne. I just have a question. So what if some of these courses are taught online?
The Pitt and Fisher sealant courses, there's only the allowance for didactic to be taught online. Laboratory and clinical components have to be done in person. So there is no provider that offers it 100% online, or there shouldn't be.
Right. So when you say site visit, so then is the curriculum reviewed online? I mean, would you be reviewing curriculum?
So when we do the reevaluation, they have to submit all of the information that they would if they were applying for the first time. So part of that would be a curriculum review.
Okay. All right. I'm just thinking how they would do that. If it's taught online, would you have a link to go online and see all the curriculum or?
No, they would have to submit the
Submit it
information
on
in
paper.
writing. Mhm.
No? Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Mhm.
Are there any other council member discussion? Would you happen to know what's the next course that will be evaluated?
Well, I did send out 5 notices November 1st. I don't have the names off the top, but I'm really going in oldest to newest order. So ones that were approved first, that's where I'm starting.
Oh, sorry. After Pitt and Fisher, though, what group are you going to tackle?
That is a great question, and I honestly haven't that determination. I think my inclination is probably Coronal Polish would be next, but I haven't determined that yet.
So this is Tracy Montez again. Tina's unit will be tackling this strategically, given that they're also part of our sunset bill changes. So the dental assisting division has quite a bit on its plate. So you can probably guess it may start with the smaller courses moving forward to the larger programs. Kara Miyazaki, if the course is part of a program like an RDA program, is that under scrutiny for the evaluation, or are these evaluations only for standalone courses?
Currently, we are just reevaluating standalone Pitt and Fisher sealant courses. So that was part of the request for information. I think there was some misunderstanding about which ones we were asking about. And so it was strictly not related to any RDA programs, just ones that are offered as standalone.
And then another question is that, and so will they be reevaluated every 7 years?
That is the goal, yes. And now with our unit, the License and Program Compliance Unit, we're making huge strides to try to get this on a schedule. And so this is where we're starting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? CA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public
Thank you.
comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 7A, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment.
Hold on for a second.
Okay.
Should I make comment?
Trisha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'll just repeat that if for the people logged into the meeting on WebEx, if you have a comment on agenda item 7A, either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. All right, this is the moderator. I see no request for comment. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 8, update and discussion on the analysis of registered dental assistant, general written and law and ethics examinations, preparation versus the pass rate statistics.
So again, good morning, Tracy Montez, Executive Officer. I'll be presenting this item on behalf of the Access to Care Committee. And as you are aware, if you read through our memo here, we summarize the various steps that the Access to Care Committee has taken over the last year. Again, trying to look at access to care within a reasonable scope for the board. Because as I like to remind our board and our council, our primary mission is to protect the consumers of dental services. However, in working with other agencies, we can help to address and facilitate access to care issues. And the board will be doing quite a bit of this Friday morning when we hear some presentations. But with regard to pass rate. So at the last board meeting, we discussed this again, both at the council meeting and the board meeting. But at the board meeting, one of our board members had asked for some additional information on a question that is posed at the end of the computer-based testing survey for the registered dental assistant law and ethics combined written exam. And so we have some data here, and it is on page 33 of the materials. You can see here the question of interest had to do with preparation. So depending upon your pathway, how did you prepare to sit for the examination? And we had various options here that, include exam prep courses, self preparation, and so forth. So you can see our group here, the various individuals who chose to answer the survey question. Again, it's a voluntary survey, but we have some data here. For example, 836 individuals, applicants selected self-study as their method of preparing for the exam. And of that group, 74% passed the exam. And so there's just some data here. Again, we didn't really go into statistical significance or anything like that, because you can see we have some very small sample sizes as well here. But again, it's informational, and we wanted to share that with you. After we get through January 1st, implementing some of the significant changes for Sunset, we will continue moving on with the various areas that the Access to Care Committee has asked us to look at. But again, we're just shifting priorities for now, but we wanted to share some data that we were able to collect with the Office of Professional Examination Services. With that, any questions from the council members? Any questions from the public here on site? None. With that, I'll turn it over to the moderator.
Thank you so much. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 8, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 9, update, discussion and possible recommendation on the table of permitted dental auxiliary duties delegatable by supervising dentists as required by California Code of Regulations, CCR, Title 16, Section 1068. I'm going to ask Ms. Valerie to present this agenda item.
Thank you. California Code of Regulations, Section 1068, requires dentists utilizing the services of dental auxiliaries to post a notice that delineates the duties and functions of the dental auxiliaries. With the passage of Sunset Bill SB 1453, staff identified the need to update the current table. The attached table includes the duties that may be delegated by a dentist to a dental assistant, orthodontic assistant, dental sedation assistant, registered dental assistant, and registered dental assistant in extended functions. We are asking the council to recommend to the board to approve the table presented on pages 36 to 45 of your meeting materials, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Tina, would you describe a little bit about how the table is just formatted for the council?
Sure. So essentially, we broke it up by type. So dental assistants are in one category, and then they're identified as either direct supervision or general supervision. And if a specific course is required, there's a column indicating that. And so the allowable duties are listed from either the Sunset Bill and Business and Professions Code or California Code of Regulations, and that's identified as well.
Thank you, Tina. And again, this is Tracy Montez. I would like to note, as we have begun to implement SB 1453, we have noticed some areas that need clarification. And for example, as you review this table, you're going to see there's some areas where we have checked the box for both the general and the direct. And that is obviously something that will need to be clarified in future legislative proposals. And again, much like legislation, any legislation, we know with SB 501, there's a lot of cleanup. We're hoping that we don't have as much cleanup with our Sunset Bill, but there will be some. And so this will be an area that we will address in the future. But for now, where we see that both of the boxes are checked, it will again ultimately come down to the dentist. The supervising dentist makes that decision. So the goal here today is to look at this table and see if there is something that perhaps we missed in terms of SB 1453. It is not an opportunity to discuss what changes should be made in terms of how the bill was enacted or chaptered. It's really if we missed something in making those updates, because this is posted on our website and it is posted at the dental offices, and our inspectors do look for this. It's very important when they're on site doing their inspections. So I just want to kind of clarify that for all of you, the council and our stakeholders. Again, we know that there will be things that we need to look at and possibly change in the future, but that's not the intent to go through and vet every single one of these duties. So with that, I will turn it back over to our chair. Thank you.
Are there any questions or discussion from the council members?
I would like to make a motion to move the recommended to the board that it approve the table of permitted dental auxiliary duties delegatable by supervising dentist as required by California Code Regulations, Title 16, Section 1068.
Okay, well, I'll give a motion. Is there a second?
Pacheco, second.
Pacheco, second. Is there any council member discussion? Ms. Fowler?
I just had a question. So as Mrs. Montez said before, if we needed to do some cleanup regarding this could take place at a future meeting or whatever, right? Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask for some clarification if that's possible? So for the RDA, they can do the allowable duties of an OA or a DSA as long as it's checked that it's direct and they must take a course. Now, if they don't take the exam, are they still allowed to do those? Would they still be allowed to do those duties?
No, they would have to take the course and apply for the permit.
Great, thank you. Okay. Is there any other comments or questions from the council? Are there any in-person public comments?
Hello, Melody Randolph representing the Alliance. Thank you so much for doing this table. It's needed to be done and clarifying direct and general instead of the DD that we've had for a while is great. But I have noticed a number, like you said, there's cleanup, but I would encourage you to do that as quickly as possible because there's going to be a lot of confusion with some of the things that are on here that need to be cleaned up. So anything we can do to help in that process, we'd be happy to.
Thank you. Are there any more in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx DCA moderator? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 9, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you, Tracy Montez jumping in. I would encourage our stakeholder groups to please send me any feedback that you have initially that you are willing to share because it helps us get a jump on any cleanup and also to determine the significance of it because any cleanup will require likely a law change, but not necessarily. So just send away. Thank you.
Thank you. Board staff, please call the roll and record votes for this agenda item.
This is Morella Teran. I will now call the roll. Epps Robbins,
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler,
Fowler, aye.
Gerlach,
Gerlach, aye.
Miyazaki,
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi,
Olagi, aye.
Pacheco,
Pacheco, aye.
Smith.
Smith, aye.
The motion passed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 10A, status update on pending regulations. I'm going to ask Brant Nelson, Legislative and Regulatory Specialist, to present this agenda item.
Good morning. My name is Brant Nelson. I am the Legislative and Regulatory Specialist for the Dental Board of California. Good to see you for the first time. I will be presenting agenda item 10A, and that can be found in your meeting materials on page 46. What I have for you is a status update on pending regulations. Just a little background quickly. This memo addresses those dental assisting rulemaking packages that have moved forward in the rulemaking process since our last dental council meeting. Rulemaking packages that require council action will be presented as separate agenda items or will be presented at a future council meeting. This is provided information only. There's no action requested. And this concludes this agenda item. If you have any questions, I'm here all day. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any council member questions or discussion? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx DCA moderator? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 10A, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 10B, discussion and possible recommendation to initiate a rulemaking to amend CCR Title 16, Section 1005 regarding minimum standards for infection control. I'm going to ask Mr. Nelson to present this agenda item.
Thank you very much. This item is on page 48 of your meeting materials, and I will provide a concise background on this agenda item. Business and Professions Code Section 1080 requires the Dental Board of California to annually review and, if necessary, adopt new regulations to facilitate minimum standards for infection control that adequately address patient safety needs. The board's Infection Control Advisory Working Group, consisting of Joanne Pacheco, Carrie Miyazaki, and a subject matter expert from the Dental Hygiene Board of California, have reviewed the regulations for clarity of language, necessity for amendments, and consistency with other governing agencies such as Cal OSHA, Cal EPA, and the Center for Disease Control. Board staff have also reviewed the Medical Board of California, the California Board of Podiatric Medicine, the Board of Registered Nursing, and the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians infection control documents. Our goal was to establish consensus and appropriate consistency on the proposed regulatory amendments to the minimum standards for infection control and subsequent implementation of those standards. This goal has not been met to date. Therefore, proposed language is not included in these materials and is instead will be brought to the Dental Hygienist Board Council for their November 15th through 16th meeting for review and approval. If approved, the proposed language will then be presented at the February 6th through 7th, 2025 Dental Assisting Council and board meetings. This is being provided as information. No action is requested. And this concludes this agenda item. Thank you.
So I'm going to jump in real quick. Again, this is an example of our working group working very hard on this, and we're looking forward to bringing this to the board and the council in February, as Brant stated. And I want to also point out that this is Brant's first meeting, Mr. Nelson, and he has done a fabulous job. He is replacing Mr. Bruggeman, and he has just, as I said, just jumped in and helping us and moving things along. And it's been great because, again, you'll get tired of me saying this, but with the sunset bill, there's so much legislation going on. So it's great to have him here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any council member discussion or questions? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx DCA moderator? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 10B, please either raise your hand or type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We are displaying instructions and we'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 11A, legislation of interest. I'm going to ask Mr. Nelson to present this agenda item.
Thank you. Agenda item 11A, legislation of interest, is found on page 49 of your meeting materials. I'll provide a brief background. The Dental Board of California has been tracking bills that impact the board, the Department of Consumer Affairs, Healing Arts Board, and their respective licensees and all licensing boards. This memorandum includes information regarding each bill's status, location, date of introduction, date of last amendment, and the summary as of the date of this memorandum. The bills are listed in numerical order with assembly bills first, and then it's followed by Senate bills. So this is provided just as, for everyone's information. There's no action requested, and this concludes the agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any council member discussion or questions? Are there any in-person public comments? Are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on agenda item 11A, please either type comment or raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment at this time. Madam Chair, I return the floor back to you.
Thank you, Tracy Montez. Again, for the council, the one bill is the sunset bill. And so we did highlight some of the changes as a result of that bill. At the board meeting, we'll have a little more thorough discussion on other bills that are not necessarily directly related to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 11B, legislative proposal to amend BPC section 1725 regarding dental auxiliary course and educational program fees. I'm going to ask Mr. Nelson to present this agenda item.
Thank you. This particular item can be found on page 51 of your meeting materials. And I'll defer to Ms. Montez to.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. So this item is being tabled for the meeting. As I mentioned earlier, the board staff had a meeting with the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education. And during our discussions, we learned some very valuable information that we think that will be helpful for the future of the board and our education programs and courses. And so we want to table this legislative proposal because it could be amended or changed, or amended is the same as changed, in the future. And so no action is needed. And thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 12, election of 2025 council chair and vice chair. I'm going to ask Dr. Montez to present this agenda item.
Okay, we're just clipping along as usual. It is my privilege to hold elections. It is the end of the calendar year, and it's that time for our elections for our 2025 officers. And I am happy now to open up nominations for council chair. To date, Ms. Deandra Epps Robbins has been nominated for council chair. I would like to confirm for the record if Ms. Epps Robbins accepts the nomination for council chair.
Epps Robbins, I accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to ask if there are any other nominations for council chair position. Okay, the nomination is to appoint Ms. Deandra Epps Robbins as the 2025 council chair. Are there any in-person public comments? May I have a motion to confirm the nomination to appoint Ms. Deandra Epps Robbins as the 2025 council chair?
Fowler, I motion to appoint Mrs. Epps Robbins as council chair.
Thank you.
Olagi, second.
Thank you, Olagi. All right, now, are there any in-person public comments? Moderator, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the nomination, please either type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, or simply raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no request for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will ask for board staff to call the roll and record the votes for Ms. Deandra Epps Robbins as the 2025 council chair.
This is Marilla Turan, and I will now call the roll for Deandra Epps Robbins as the 2025 council chair. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, I accept.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Gerlach.
Gerlach, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi. Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Smith.
Smith, aye.
The motion passed.
Thank you. I would now like to open nominations for council vice chair. To date, Ms. Jerry Fowler has been nominated for council vice chair, the position that she currently holds. I would like to confirm for the record if Ms. Fowler accepts the nomination for council vice chair.
Fowler accepts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Olagi motion.
Sorry,
sorry.
I need to open it up now if there are any other nominations for council vice chair position. Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Olagi motion for Ms. Jerry Fowler as vice chair of the council 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Pacheco, second.
Thank you. Are there any in-person comments on the nomination of Ms. Jerry Fowler as council vice chair? Seeing none, moderator, are there any public comments from individuals participating via WebEx?
Thank you. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on the nomination, please either type comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen or raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, I see no requests for comment. I return the floor back to you.
Thank you. I will now ask for board staff to call the roll and record the votes for Ms. Fowler as the 2025 council vice chair.
This is Marella Teran. I will now call the roll for Jerry Fowler as the 2025 council vice chair. Epps Robbins.
Epps Robbins, aye.
Fowler.
Fowler, aye.
Gerlach.
Gerlach, aye.
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, aye.
Olagi. Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Smith.
Smith, aye.
The motion passed.
Thank you and congratulations to the 2025 council chair Epps Robbins and vice chair Fowler. Your terms begin January 1st, 2025. And that concludes this item.
I'd like to say before we move on that Kara Miyazaki has been an amazing chair of the Dental Assistant Council, and I wanted to say thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 13, adjournment. This concludes the November 7th, 2024 Dental Assisting Council meeting. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you. And the board meeting will begin at 10 o'clock promptly.